go to an oncologist in Reno, Dr. Conrad, great dude. And he tells me I have a primary central nervous system lymphoma.
Oh, so that means it went into your spinal cord?
So
like it got into your brain? How's that?
So primary meaning originating in the brain.
Okay.
Central nervous system, and lymphoma, the nature of the cancer. And I didn't know anything about cancer. I didn't even know lymphoma was cancer. So I'm all, what is that? Cancer? And he just didn't say anything, just nodded his head. And my dad was in the room with me as well. And I'm sure my dad knew a lot more than I did at the time. So, that treatment was pretty brutal if that was the option I had to go with. And, my book's called For a Reason, because the things that have happened in my life, such as the next set of events, because Dr. Conrad's treatment was weekly chemo every single week for 4 months. Oof. And then 5 weeks of radiation to the brain after that, then like another month of chemo, just like every single week you're getting crushed. So I was like, well, I don't know if we have much of a choice. So the next day I got a call from the oncologist at UCLA who had been following my case. And he said that there's a program in Portland, Oregon called the blood-brain barrier disruption. And it's a form of chemo that doesn't involve radiation. So that was pioneered by Dr. Ed Newalt back in 1982. And it greatly enhanced the quality of life for whatever life you might have left, for your last days, whether it's another year, 6 months, or 5 years or whatever. So I was like, okay, well, if we're going to have the best chance, for our best chances, to have a quality of life, regardless of how long that's going to be, we're going to step up our game. We're going to fly to Portland, Oregon every month to get it. So went up to Portland, Oregon every month for an entire year, flew back, gave myself injections of Neupogen, which replenishes your white blood cells, shots of Lovenox, which is a blood thinner, and all kinds of steroids that go along with it. And steroids were the worst, probably worse than the chemo itself. But and then, you just kind of had to adapt to the new normal of going to Portland every month and doing all the whole medical thing. But, once you practice something for a certain amount of time, you start to get efficient at it and just, becomes your new normal. And then once it becomes your new normal, then you can start adapting and you can start improving your quality of life. So, it took a while for my speech and memory to come back. And I can claim that it probably took 6 years till 6 or 7 years before I finally had total recall.
Wow.
There's still probably memories that I don't even know about that are wandering around in my brain that I haven't remembered yet. But, so I did a lot of reading, and reading was very therapeutic during that time because having to take the steroids every 6 hours through the entire year didn't really get me sleep.
Cow.
So,
and at this point, you don't even know if you're going to live. Like, did they give you, you had the tumor removed, you had 3 different surgeries, tumor came out, you got this treatment that's non-radiation treatment. It's chemicals of some sort and steroids and whatnot. And you're being very diligent about it. But the big question mark is, we don't even know if I'm going to live.
Well, so the first treatment when I got out of, my first treatment was August 1999. And it shrunk the tumor by 80% that first month.
Oh, so they didn't remove the tumor with the craniotomy. What they were doing was exploring it.
No, they did remove they did remove the tumor through the craniotomies.
Okay.
But through the blood-brain barrier disruption, that it's a kind of a crazy process. They basically take a needle and insert it into your femoral artery, which is the largest artery in your body, in the pelvic area. And that's when they kind of administer the chemo and the methotrexate and all that. And it goes through your body and it goes to the back of your brain. And that it's 10 to 100-fold effective because it hits the cancer super hard. So the way that works is, the blood-brain barrier is basically your immune system. So it's hard to get in there, right? So what Dr. Newell did is he pioneered this program to where there's a sugar solution called mannitol. And when the mannitol is in your system, it actually opens up the blood-brain barrier for 20 to 30 minutes. And that's when they zap you with a chemo.
So I guess because I'm naive to all this, I pictured they scrape out the growth, but the cancer's not gone then. You still have to attack the cancer.
So yeah, so my tumor was on the left side of my brain. So as you know, your left side's your analytical, your right side is your creative side. And they can only go so far to take it out. So that's why they had to hit me with the chemo. Okay. Because if they took out too much, I could be
start eating your brain.
Well, I could be in a permanent state of paralysis.
Oh, okay.
Right. I would be in a condition like someone with extreme like cerebral palsy, to where I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk.
Okay.
I could think, but I couldn't function.
So this growth then that they removed was not a part of your brain. It was something that just mushroomed inside. It was non-beneficial. It was vestigial, I guess, for lack of a better term. So they clip that, they cut it out the best that they can. But if they dig any further to get, like, I guess the roots, so to speak, of this mushroom, they'd start poking into parts of your brain that are necessary to function. And so in order to attack that, rather than cut them out, they poison it. Is that an appropriate analogy?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, I think I get it now.
So what chemo does is it kills the cancer. It's intended to kill the cancer, mm-hmm. but it also kills your good cells too.
Right. It makes you very sick, right?
Kills your white blood cells. I think the human body is very fascinating, and people are built in their own unique genetic code. Some people respond better than others. There's youth is definitely an advantage because my body could handle it when you're 23.
Mm-hmm. And you were in shape and you were healthy and all that stuff. That's certainly probably factored in as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I try to keep. Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to being, obese and having a cigarette hobby and that kind of thing, like that would probably be less likely to have a resilient response to the treatment if you're unhealthy.
Sure. I mean, you got people that smoke and have unhealthy eating habits. They don't get cancer. Then you have some of those same demographic that do get cancer. So I think I talk about in my book about how I could have gotten cancer. Was it the liner in my refrigerator with the water? Did I have a food allergy that I didn't know about? Was it the lifestyle? Because back in the 90s, in Reno, I didn't smoke, mm-hmm. but smoking was legal in bars, and we would socially hang out in smoky bars. And then there's also genetics. So I think, the right combination of those environments, paired with my genetic code, which didn't respond, there's somewhere in there is how the cancer originated and
right.
Metastasized goes to other parts of your body, but it maintained in my brain, so it never got down my spinal cord.
So I want you to finish telling the story about how you healed, because eventually I want to talk about it's a mental health podcast. We want to talk about the mental health aspect of these things, and then get into the charity. But I want you to finish the story about like the treatments and how you healed and stuff. And I'll just keep peppering in questions because I'm curious and I'm the show host and I get to ask these things.
Yeah. So my scans were clean, and through this particular treatment, it's funny. I actually asked a question on Facebook to all of my fellow cancer survivors. I said, what do you consider remission, from your treatment? Is it the last day of chemo? Is it the first day your cancer considered cancer free? So it was kind of variable, but because my treatment, the protocol was 12 months. So if the cancer was gone halfway through, they wanted me to go the rest of the 6 months just because that had the best success rate. So I went through treatment all 12 months because, we don't want to take any chances of this thing coming back. And
when did it go away? How soon into treatment did it go away?
if it shrunk by 80% after the first treatment out of, 11 months, then, because I got an MRI when I went to OHSU, and then I got an MRI. Oh God, it's just 20 years ago, so it's kind of hard to remember those kind of details. But I got an MRI I think it came down to once a month after the first couple of months, to where I'd either get the MRI when I got to OHSU, or I'd have an MRI before I flew up to OHSU. And
that's Oregon Health Science University, is that right?
Yep. They're one of the best in the world, and I think in a lot of things as well. So, so I ended up reading 20 books that year in my in between time, and not being able to sleep. And eventually I had to relearn how to tie my shoes, walk and talk. And, the brain is a truly remarkable thing, and it can heal. And it's true, use it or lose it. So I definitely challenged myself during that time. And
Yep, I think we froze.
It hit me for the rest of my life through into my survivorship. And just with all the notes I took, I believed that I was going to be a survivor. So I just said, what you believe is what you become. So that became my mantra. And then finished my last chemo and took that with me. And then, life after chemo is not happily ever after, because you have the side effects when you're tapering. When you're tapering from steroids, that's not fun. It's a roller coaster of emotions, depression, anxiety. You can't really quit them cold turkey, so they put you on a 6-month taper schedule. And then, to boot, 4 months before my last chemo treatment, we entered a 2.5-year recession, the .com recession.
Yeah.
So as if, adding insult to injury, there was no jobs.
Right.
And then I pretty much determined, I went to college. I used to go to the Bay Area, Sacramento, to go see like Soundgarden and Metallica. So that was kind of my thing in college. And
you're dating yourself. The 1999 college graduation dated you, but saying Soundgarden and Metallica in concert is definitely dating us.
Yeah.
I think that's like my parents saying like, yeah, we went to see Pink Floyd or something. It's like, oh no, I know how old you are.
Yeah. But epic nonetheless. I saw Pearl Jam in my college days. Yeah, all the good bands. So, you come to that point in your life when you finish chemo and we're in a recession, life is short. So, you got to do what you enjoy. You don't have to, if you're dirt poor, as long as you enjoy it, do it, because everything else will follow. I totally believe in the law of attraction. So for me, I love music. I love sports. So the first thing I did after my last chemo treatment is I stepped into a spinning class at 24 Hour Fitness. When I walked out of that class, I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to become a certified spinning instructor. I get to motivate people. I get to exercise. I get paid on top, but best of all, I get to play my own music. So I get my own DJ. So then I got certified, and that was the beginning. There's two critical things that happened towards my recovery. That getting the certification, and I'm granted $20 for 1 or 2 classes a week isn't a ton of money, but the fact that I can do all those other things that go along with it was fulfilling for me. But, I had this aspiration to go to Europe, and I thought my happy ending could be, gosh, it'd be great to go full circle and go to Europe and kind of pick up from where I left off. But this is where one of the biggest lessons that came into play was, I had this aspiration to go to Europe, and it just kept showing up in my life. Okay, I have to go to Europe. This is going to be my happy ending. Then I could move on with the rest of my life. But my time to go to Europe had come and gone, because my friends, they had already started their jobs. I was still managing seizure complications. I had no one to go with. And I just was anxious about it every single day. And I realized that the thing that was making me so miserable was this outcome, this so-called outcome that I had to go to Europe. And then I asked myself a different question. What would my life look like if I didn't go to Europe? If I let go of Europe, if I focus more on my healing,